A6M-0, the pride of the Japanese Navy, the plane that absolutely demolished Allied aircraft early in the war, the plane that was feared both in real life and in War Thunder. It should be said that, in real life, Zero's domination did not last forever. As the war progressed, Allies learned how to counter the Zero, on top of replacing their old planes with new, superior designs. By 1945, Zero was not a threat anymore. It was a shadow of its former self, a plane that was used for kamikaze purposes more often than not. So when you look at War Thunder, you expect to see a similar story. And yet, something very unusual is happening in War Thunder. Here, the Zero, together with other maneuverable planes, dominate the skies. In fact, it has become so bad that these maneuverable planes are constantly getting their battle rating increased higher and higher. These days they have to fight far superior planes that should absolutely destroy them. And yet, somehow, the Zero still comes out on top. So, to get some insight into what's happening, I played a low BR Zero, a medium BR Spitfire, and a high BR RE 2005. All three are very average planes that can only turn well, and are fairly bad otherwise. You can probably guess how it went. After using these planes for a while, I can say that my experience was mostly positive, albeit kind of binary. Don't worry, I will explain later. For now, I want to focus on the good aspects of playing a turn fighter. First of all, such planes are incredibly easy to use without much knowledge or experience. I would go so far as to say that, in most matches, you can turn off your brain and still get multiple kills without breaking a sweat. While the planes like the BF-109 or P-51 require you to think and consider your next move, the Zero doesn't. Its incredible maneuverability at any speed allows you to make mistakes and not get punished for them. While the P-51 has to play safe, the Zero can be as aggressive as it wants. The aggressive nature of such planes also makes them perfect for players who are impatient and want constant action. After all, one of the main complaints about ARB is the fact that it is somewhat slow, especially early in the game. When you are in a turn fighter, however, you don't really care. You can go straight towards the enemy and dogfight anything that comes your way. It doesn't matter what it is that's coming at you, because you know you can just turn with them and win. This is another aspect of turn fighters that helps inexperienced players. You don't really need to learn about other planes and their specifics, as your game plan always stays the same, no matter what enemy you're facing. What else? If you find an enemy who is going slower than you, or is below you, you are essentially guaranteed to kill them. It is extremely hard, if not impossible, to defend against a Zero who is diving on you from above. A few words about the specific planes that I was using. A6M is absolutely unbeatable in its turn fighting niche. It is actually impossible to beat the Zero in a dogfight if you don't have an energy advantage. It also doesn't compress at high speeds like in real life, which is a bit weird. The Spitfire, while not as maneuverable, possesses insane firepower in the form of 4 Hispano cannons with a decent amount of ammo. These cannons have good fire rate, velocity and damage, so as long as you can keep your nose on target, a short burst is enough to take them down. RE 2005 is a mix between the two. It is very maneuverable, especially compared to planes it has to fight, and has a very solid set of guns in the form of 3 MG-151s. Good turn and good guns. What else is there to say? After flying them for a while, I can definitely see why people like these planes so much. I can see the appeal of this brain-dead playstyle. You just sit back, relax, turn with everyone and get easy kills. I get it. Now, remember how I said that my experience was very binary? Yes, I did have a lot of very easy games where I didn't have to do anything to get kills. But there was another, very depressing side to it. I did my best not to talk about it up until now, but it is time. All these great things I just talked about go out the window as soon as you have to fight a good player in an actual good plane. If you are in a 4.0 Zero and you notice a P-51 C-10 piloted by somebody who isn't severely disabled, it's over for you. This is no exaggeration, you actually cannot win this matchup. In fact, you cannot win against any good plane unless the enemy makes a mistake. And this is what makes planes like Zero so incredibly awful to play at times. They rely entirely on the enemy being bad at the game. Yes, you have the insane turn rate, but that turn rate alone doesn't matter in the slightest when the enemy chooses not to engage in a dogfight with you. So, what options do you have if they just ignore you? You could try chasing them, but you will never catch anyone thanks to your low speed. You could try climbing, but that just allows the enemy to get even more separation from you. You could try going head-on out of desperation, but that's a gamble. Realistically, the only thing you can do is let the enemy attack you and then try to reverse them. This will work against the less experienced players, or someone who is impatient, but again, a smart player will just break off their attack when they see what you're trying to do. Even then, allowing the enemy to attack you is always a risk. They might predict your turn and still hit you. This is absolutely not a reliable strategy, but it's also the best option available to you. Your best option is to put yourself in danger. You see where I'm going with this? This is the binary experience I was talking about. You either face bad players and destroy them, or face good players and can't do anything. How well you do depends entirely on how lucky you get with enemies. If you look at the background footage of this video, you will hardly see anything skillful on my part. It's just me killing clueless players over and over again. Not because I'm better, but just due to the fact that they are bad. I also died plenty of times because of what I just described. One or two decent players would boom and zoom me endlessly until I was out of altitude and speed, at which point I couldn't defend myself anymore. So, in my humble opinion, planes like the Zero are just not enjoyable to fly. They do have their upsides, definitely, but they are entirely reliant on fighting lobotomized enemies to be able to succeed, and that is not something I personally enjoy. So at this point, you might be thinking that turn fighters are not very good, and you would be absolutely correct. But if that's the case, what is going on with their battle ratings? Why are they all constantly going up in BR? If you have been listening, the answer is right there. If not, let me explain. If you haven't figured it out yet, the answer to why turn fighters sit at such high BRs goes back to my first War Thunder video. The game doesn't teach the players anything. Because of this, ARB is full of players who have no clue on how to play. And planes like the Zero just so happen to be incredibly good at killing bad players, even when the one flying it is a bad player themselves. Turn fighters might be subpar aircraft, but if 95% of the player base sucks, well, countering these planes isn't hard, but you do need to use your brain a little. People often say, don't turn fight to Zero. Everyone knows it, but nobody knows what to do instead. So they still turn, and they still die. There are two ways to do it. If the Zero is on the same altitude as you, just go for a head-on attack, but make sure to keep your speed and extend away from it afterwards. Once you're safe, turn around and repeat until the Zero is burning. If you have an altitude advantage, it's even easier. Dive on the Zero, but don't actually attack them. You want to force them to dive and waste their energy while keeping yours. Eventually, the Zero will have nowhere to go, and that's when you deliver the killing blow. I can guarantee you that if the War Thunder air community somehow became good overnight, the Zero would never be seen again. Nobody would use it, and the same goes for other similar planes. They don't stand a chance against other, more versatile aircraft. Can the air community get good? I highly doubt it. Considering the direction War Thunder is going, dogfighting skills become less and less relevant, and it's very easy to see why. The entire game is now focused exclusively on top-tier aircraft. New jets, new missiles, new radars, you name it. That's what everybody is talking about, and that's what the new players want. So what possible motivation do they have to get good at air combat? There is none. They know they can just bomb their way to jets, and once they reach top tier, missiles will carry them the rest of the way. Bombs and missiles, that's the name of the game. This means that planes like Zero will stay in this broken state forever, being both overpowered and useless at the same time. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if their battle rating gets increased even higher. After all, there is plenty of noobs to kill. As always, a massive thank you to Tronathon, Luminosity, Hidora, Florian and Subvision for being overpowered enough to support me. You guys buff my soul and nerf the sadness in my heart. I am not sure on the topic of the next video, so once again, I am open to suggestions. That said, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Farewell.